It seems to hurt them, Madam Speaker. It hurt them. And it hurt Master Mark too. It burned him.
On a point of order, Madam Speaker. No, on a point of order, Madam Speaker. On a point of order, Madam Speaker. On a point of order, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I believe that the Minister of Finance, in terms of, shut your mouth and let me talk. I know you would find it. I know you would have a problem with that. I know you would have a problem with that. I know you would have a problem with that. No, I know you would have a problem with that.
Madam Speaker.
I know you would have a problem with that.
Point of order, Madam Speaker. Point of order.
I have not made my point. I wasn't a point of order, and I want to be heard.
Point of order, Madam Speaker. A point of order, Madam Speaker.
I haven't said what I needed to say.
No, the member has used unparliamentary language in the Honourable House by indicating that the member should shut his mouth.
Who is the Minister of Finance
for which he must withdraw. And so
who is he referring to as the Master Mark in the Parliament?
And sit.
Who is he referring to as Master Mark?
You need to name the member.
That is not parliamentary language either.
So this is part 2 of Mark Golding laying out his ideas in his budget presentation. A lot of people said that Mark Golding didn't say anything in his budget presentation apart from troubling Andrew Holness, and that is why I go back and pull up this video for you guys so you can watch this budget presentation and get a better understanding of everything that Mark Golding spoke about. In part 1, Mark Golding addressed a lot of stuff. Now this is part 2, so if you don't know watch part 1 yet, it will come up at the end of the screen on this video. Or you can go back on the channel and watch part 1. You understand what I say? But this is the part when Andrew Holness and him team run out of Parliament when Mark Golding step on them can. Yes, people. So this part is a more excited part, while there is a lot of information inside of this part. So you definitely want to watch the video until the end so you can get a better understanding. Don't go say Mark Golding didn't do much in a presentation. Watch the presentation so you can talk for yourself, because Mark Golding presentation sound 1 million times better than Nigel Clark. When you listen to Nigel Clark presentation, you hear tricksters in it. When you listen to Mark Golding presentation, you know this man care about the poor. This man care about the people. Listen to it carefully. Listen to it carefully. Me know I gonna love it. But bless up to my viewers and my subscribers. May hope everybody having a blessed and a wonderful day. Now my viewers and my subscribers, remember, in everything you do, always put God first. In every and any situation, just always remember to call upon God. Always remember to pray, because a prayer day keep the devil away. Now my viewers and my subscribers, we have a lot coming up. So we're going to run the intro and come back. We soon forward. So welcome back to my viewers and my subscribers. Big up to all of my viewers, big up to all of my subscribers. We continually support the channel and I help the channel to grow. Now, remember to leave a like on this video. Remember to give this video a thumbs up. Also, subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet, and turn on the post notification bell so whenever we drop new content, you will be first to be notified. Alright? And remember to share the content with a friend, a family, a loved one. Share it on your social media platform, because a lot of people just talk, but them don't know what going. Them not listen to Mark Golding presentation, but yet still them have a lot to say because of what the media share to them. The media just share what them want to share to Uno. But this is the real deal. So check it out, people. Remember, watch until the end.
We'll partner with the UWI and other technical institutions to engage in research that will boost productivity. The College of Agricultural Science and Education, CASE, must be given the financial resources to do the necessary research that will assist our farmers to produce at a consistently high quality. And in fact, the next PNP administration intends to upgrade CASE to a university to enhance the focused institutional support required for a thrust to greater food security in the country. We will boost our own research facilities at Bodles and Orange River and Montpelier to provide innovations that our farmers require to grow the sector. We will make the best planting stock, animal genetics and farming systems in animal husbandry and agronomy available to our farmers. We'll increase the use of drones, RFID technology, hydroponic farming systems, solar-operated irrigation pumps, and in-field monitoring of soil fertility to boost our production and increase productivity. And we will strengthen the laws to protect our farmers from agricultural theft, bringing those offences under the Proceeds of Crime Act regime so that the profits can be taken away from criminals who reap what our farmers sow. Mr. Speaker, our goal is for agriculture and agro-industries to contribute at least 10 to 12% of Jamaica's GDP, transforming rural development, providing sustainable employment across the country, and guaranteeing our nation's food security. This is why we are adamant that our concerns regarding the removal of GCT from imported foods be immediately reviewed, reconsidered, and the initiatives that we proposed earlier be put into action. Mr. Speaker, I now turn to a number of emerging industries and some of our plans for their development. Like our spokesperson on finance explained, energy, broadband and internet access are all central considerations for advancing inclusive and sustainable economic growth. Jamaica's fixed broadband population penetration of 15% in 2022 ranks Jamaica at the lower end of internet penetration and adoption when compared to other countries in the Caribbean. Our fixed broadband subscription is lower than the Cayman, Trinidad, and Grenada. We will prioritize investments and initiatives to bridge the digital divide. To ensure that all Jamaican citizens have access to affordable and reliable internet services. This will require investment in building a robust digital infrastructure and expanding access to high-speed internet connectivity, a process which has already started and which needs to be accelerated. By achieving digital connectivity right across the country, Jamaica can create a level playing field for persons to access online education, remote work opportunities, and digital services, thereby enabling them to participate fully in an increasingly digital economy. We also intend to expand partnerships with telecoms companies to deploy broadband networks in underserved areas, providing incentives to encourage adoption of digital technologies in low-income households. Mr. Speaker, the emergence of artificial intelligence, AI, as a new frontier of technological advancement is already having a massive global impact on commerce and indeed life in general. And this is only going to intensify in years to come. We're really at the very beginning of the effects of AI on our lives. Jamaica therefore needs to prepare itself for the positive and negative effects of AI technology so we can benefit from its massive potential for greater efficiency and competitiveness and mitigate the serious risks of misrepresentation and fraud that come with AI. The next PNP administration will develop and introduce an AI-related curriculum and digital literacy programs from primary school through to tertiary education. By equipping students with foundational skills in coding, data analysis, and critical thinking, we will cultivate a new generation of AI-savvy individuals who are well prepared for the jobs of the future. We have to embrace the present in a way that will prepare our people for the future. We will also introduce adult education and skills training programs to upskill and reskill the existing workforce so that Jamaican citizens aren't left behind as automation and AI technologies reshape the labor market. And the issue of internet penetration is also tied to the distribution of digital technology. It impacts the growth of the cluster of emerging industries that we have identified for priority attention: global logistics, cultural creative industries, sports, our environmental and ecological heritage, and community tourism. These are industries that we think have tremendous potential. As with agriculture, this government has not demonstrated its seriousness about the development of cultural and creative industries or sports. The absence of a development plan for culture and the creative industries after 8 years and the barely touched national sports policy that we left behind bear witness to this. Mr. Speaker, the One Love phenomenon, now blowing like a natural mystic across the globe, shows us what cultural and creative practitioners have been telling us for years. Nurturing and growing the cultural and creative industries, sports, and their diverse ecosystems is extremely important for economic development and for cultural identity in Jamaica. This requires the funding and deliberate effort to drive these industries, which are two of the fastest growing areas of economic activity in the world. In this year's budget, $234 million is allocated to the Jamaican Screen Development Initiative, and we endorse that. The government has identified 2 entertainment spaces. They say they've identified them. One of them has been identified long ago, and one of them was used for entertainment from long ago. But it's a good start after many years of inaction. We commit that when we are in government, we'll prioritize the participatory development of a master plan comprising a comprehensive policy and legislative framework to support and incentivize the cultural and creative industries and sports. The plan will address investment and finance, education and training, infrastructure development for cultural and creative persons, practitioners, and also sports practitioners. Existing infrastructure for the cultural and creative industries and sports are falling apart island-wide. The Trelawney Sports Centre, Independence Park, Catherine Hall, Sabina Park, the Little Theatre, Ward Theatre, Vale Royal, and other existing and potential heritage sites are disintegrating from neglect. How come? Change is sorely needed. Mr. Speaker, in the area of tourism, we are committed to trying to broaden the benefits flowing to our people from the massive investments that have taken place in tourism. Indeed, we're spending $4 billion advertising sun, sea, and sand. And we think that the government should direct some of these resources to developing and promoting community tourism, cultural industries, sports, ecotourism, and craft. For example, a round-robin series of reggae arts and cultural festivals across the island at various dates throughout the year would directly boost community incomes as part of our integrated plan. And it can be done through the municipal corporations to encourage community development. In other words, community tourism for community development. And that type of community tourism activity would produce revenue for the local authorities and help them to deliver services at a higher level to their communities. And this approach promotes greater economic inclusion. It's a glimpse of what holistic implementation across these important emerging sectors could look like, promoting sustainable economic development. While the existing enclave model of tourism generates wealth for that sector, it is not sufficiently impacting the communities in proximity to the enclaves. Though we hear the boasts of record tourism arrivals, we hear very little on why it seems not to elevate communities across Jamaica. And, Mr. Speaker, at this point, I want to say one commitment that I have which is in keeping with our seriousness about culture and the creative industries. When we form the next government, I commit to conferring the Order of National Hero on the Honorable Robert Nesta Marley. For his service of a most distinguished nature in advancing Jamaican culture and his global impact as a liberating, inspirational force for oppressed people across the world. I say time come to recognize the gong as a true national hero and confer that honor on him accordingly. Mr. Speaker, I now turn to measures to make real our commitment to the development of infrastructure and human amenities. The vexed issue of energy costs in Jamaica needs to be addressed. They are way too high, and they are another structural impediment to economic transformation. We have some proposals to ensure a viable and sustainable electricity system and to bring down electricity costs to consumers and businesses. We'll undertake a massive regularization support drive for electricity connections, including a subsidy to help families meet the costs of rewiring, inspection, and certification. And we will provide these families with solar panels to help them manage their energy costs going forward and build climate sustainability. We'll roll out a national energy efficiency, natural lighting, and passive cooling program, financed by local, regional, and international development banks and private risk capital. The objective here is to achieve an average 50% reduction in residential energy consumption and costs, with a very short payback of a few years. We'll prioritize achieving our renewable energy target of 33% by 2030. This government has failed to issue regular renewable energy RFPs, requests for proposals. Indeed, they've only issued one in the last 8 years. That is an indictment on their management of the economy. These RFPs generate fee income for the government, and the capital required to implement these wind, solar, hydro, and waste-to-energy projects is privately funded. We intend to issue utility-scale RFPs every 2 to 3 years to reach the renewable energy target. And Mr. Speaker, we will review the tax system affecting the energy sector to ensure that it incentivizes investments in efficiency and cost-reducing replacement and expansion of the sector, in keeping with our policy priorities to reduce Jamaica's carbon footprint. Making real change for our people requires much greater attention to water, roads, and works. The local government elections made this clear. All governance is about prioritization, especially when resources are limited, and they're always limited. What governments prioritize determines the kind of society we're building, and it tells us what the future will look like. We believe that over the next decade, public capital expenditure must prioritize investments to improve the production, distribution, and harvesting of water, and rehabilitating the minor road and farm road networks across Jamaica. These are dominant demands of the people, and the government must answer to the people. The National Water Commission, the NWC, purports to supply 73% of the population with water, which means that over 25% of our population is not served by the public water supply system. And private water companies don't close that gap in communities where the NWC is not providing water. That's what they say. There needs to be a major thrust to build connectivity among the network of pumping stations and other elements that make up Jamaica's water supply system, so that water can be efficiently distributed from where it is abundant to where there's a lack of supply. And that requires achieving a high level of cohesion among the various state agencies that have responsibility for different aspects of the system. And we have to focus on achieving that. It is unacceptable that slightly over $1 billion is slated for water supply projects this year, given the water storage issues that we've been facing over the last several years, and anticipated droughts with climate change, and the constant cries of the people for water. Meanwhile, the NWC has made announcements of a plan to develop 577 acres in Norbrook, a watershed area at that. One really has to wonder about their priorities. We welcome the public-private partnership that was announced, that is, we're told, will supply 15 million gallons a day from St. Catherine to serve the Kingston metropolitan area, Portmore, and Spanish Town, as long as the commercial terms are fairly balanced to protect the public. We don't want a sweetheart deal at the expense of the public. This project is slated to begin in 25-26, i.e. a year out from now, I believe, according to the Public Investment Program. One is left to wonder why it's taking 3 years since the agreement was signed to start the work on such an urgent project. But what of pipe water to the rest of Jamaica? And what of plans to secure our natural water resources across Jamaica in an era of intensifying climate change? I move to roads. The last 3 decades have witnessed significant investment in the development of highways. And that was a good thing. Absolutely. North Coast Highway Project, Highway 2000, the North-South Link, and Southern Coastal Project, and so on. In the meantime, interior roads, community roads, on which most of our people have to drive on a daily basis, are in an appalling condition. Project Spark is an effort to start addressing this problem, but we have serious doubts as to the approach that's being taken, given our negative experience with the constituency allocation for roads in 2022, which many MPs have reported are still yet to come through. The last PNP administration established a secretariat for JEEP with the technical personnel to efficiently drive the infrastructure projects executed under that program and to ensure proper accountability for the expenditure under the program, which was a great success. We commend that model to the government so that we don't want Project Spark to burn out without achieving significant improvement to the minor road network. Mr. Speaker, I move to health and wellness. There are several green papers, audits, and reviews within the Ministry of Health and Wellness that clearly outline the dilapidated state of the public health system. Even without resorting to these sources, there is a travel advisory issued by the U.S. State Department advising of the poor state of our hospitals and the prohibitive costs associated with accessing private health care. And this is borne out by the constant cries of the users of the public health system and the frustration of the healthcare providers themselves, often manifested in industrial unrest and protests. And even now there are murmurings of unrest in some sectors of the health service. One therefore has to wonder what guides the priorities for expenditure in the annual budget for the Ministry of Health and Wellness. With a capital budget of $11 billion, nearly twice that of education, one would expect clear efforts to decrease inefficiencies, to improve the overall experience of accessing the public health system, and to address the major health threats affecting Jamaicans. However, these major threats of chronic non-communicable diseases such as diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, and cancer have been, to an extent, sidelined in favor of massive spend on infrastructure concentrated in 3 hospitals. The massive cost overrun in the Cornwall Regional Hospital will go down as the greatest project cost variation in the history of Jamaica at a staggering 1,100%. Never before has any Jamaican alive or dead seen a project move from an estimated cost to completion of less than $2 billion and end up costing more than 10 times that amount at over $20 billion. And this figure is expected to rise further as the completion date is pushed farther away. The only person who predicted it accurately was Murray's guy, the member for Central St. Mary. It is telling that no one has been held accountable for this debacle. The Minister of Health has been bemoaning the lack of local expertise in hospital construction, but he's nevertheless decided to begin the construction of 2 new facilities at UHWI and Spanish Town. We wonder what the logic is behind that when the English-speaking Caribbean's largest community of Portmore still doesn't have a public hospital. And when the Western region is still struggling without a fully operational Cornwall Regional Hospital. And when the major parishes are without a facility that has basic diagnostic equipment. And in major urban areas, there's an economically unsound reliance on using private facilities for public patients, transported in scarcely available ambulances. With this budget, users of the public health system will continue to suffer from prolonged waiting times, overcrowded emergency rooms, inadequate hospital beds, and overworked and demotivated staff who can't wait for the next recruiter for a way out. Like the census, immunization rates are well below targets, and the maternal mortality rate is at its highest level in over 50 years. The maternal mortality rate in Jamaica is at its highest levels in over 50 years. No budgetary changes to deal with these problems. Mr. Speaker, something is wrong here. I move to housing, land, and sustainable living. Land and shelter remain important national priorities. On the minds of hardworking Jamaicans is the question, will they ever be able to enjoy the security of being able to own a piece of land or a house? Using data from the 2022 Voluntary National Review Report of the 2030 Agenda and the SDGs, we know that in 2019, over 100,000 fewer Jamaicans rented or lived in their own home than in 2007. 100,000 fewer Jamaicans. 30% of households were either living rent-free with the owner's consent, what Jamaicans would call cotching, or they were occupying premises without the legal owner's consent. That represented an increase of 10 percentage points over the preceding decade. If you live in a major urban center, you are most concerned about the fact that the price of housing built under this JLP government is out of reach for most people. Shelter is one of the basic needs of our people. In the Jamaican historical and socio-economic context, it requires a proactive policy by the state to provide affordable housing for our people. The People's National Party understands this. It is what motivated us to develop Portmore, the largest residential community in the English-speaking Caribbean, and so many other major schemes, Harbourview, Mona Heights, Frontier Heights, and a plethora of other housing developments across the island. It is why, in 1976, the Most Honourable Michael Manley established a National Housing Trust to provide affordable housing for Jamaicans. It is why the Most Honourable P.J. Patterson in the 1990s established a program called Operation Pride to provide land and housing for citizens, which despite its challenges, delivered over 50,000 titled lots for people in Pines of Karachi, Mount Edgecombe, Melrose Mews, Bedward Gardens, Bel Air, and a host of other communities. And similarly, the Most Honourable Portia Simpson Miller embarked on an initiative to remove barracks housing and provide houses for sugar workers to live in dignity. In stark contrast, this government has built a mere 200 social houses, one dege since 2016, a paltry average of 25 housing units per year. And it presided over the demolition of poor people's houses in Clifton and St. Catherine and sought to evict 65 settled families from their homes in the widest Vale. In truth and in fact, the cost of housing is out of reach to ordinary Jamaicans, with a 2-bedroom unit on the market costing over $20 million, while the NHT only provides up to $9 million to a contributor to purchase a home. The NHT has been financially weakened by the government's continued extraction of $11.4 billion every year to finance the budget of the government since 2016. After the 2013 to 2016 IMF program ended, we had put that in place for 4 years when we had a mountain of debt to get Jamaica out of, and we had a very high primary surplus target. It was never supposed to be extended. The recent decision to require NHT contributors earning over $31,000 a week to borrow from private financial institutions flows from that extraction of resources for so many years now since this government came to power. And whereas contributors to NHT have been charged interest rates of 5% by the NHT, private financial institutions are charging around 9% now. And the NHT is having to subsidize those private financial institutions for the difference in those rates. And that's going to further weaken the institution. Jamaica needs change, and we are on the road to change. We recognize that the police, the soldiers, the teachers, the nurses, civil servants, young professionals need access to affordable housing. So that must be the road to change. And some of our proposals include, we will repurpose the NHT to ensure that it focuses on the building of affordable housing. We will end the extraction of $11.4 billion a year from the NHT for the government's budget and put this money into building affordable houses for our people. We will provide targeted and well-designed incentives for developers to get into the construction of affordable housing so that more of our population can afford to acquire a home using their NHT benefits. And we will complete the unfinished Operation Pride schemes so that the residents enjoy the full benefits of what was started for them. And we will launch a new program based on a similar concept, but with a robust and transparent accountability structure to tackle the deep problem of informal settlements across Jamaica and bring dignified housing in organized communities to our citizens. Mr. Speaker, I move to the issue of good governance because it is the second pillar of the road to change, good governance. When it comes to governance, one thing is certain. Things cannot be allowed to remain the way they are now. That is why I have identified an entire cluster of portfolios within our own governance structure to address the now desperate area of transparency and accountable governance. And this is where change is truly required. I move to the focus on social justice first. A robust social justice agenda is necessary for achieving high levels of inclusive, sustainable economic growth. If Jamaica is to become a socially cohesive society that moves away from negative behaviors and attitudes that undermine our mission to achieve national greatness. Deepening social justice is an important part of this objective, and I'm going to give you some of our proposals. We will implement a progressive beach access policy to ensure that the public has reasonable access to Jamaica's beaches, as is done in other Caribbean islands that also enjoy a strong tourism industry. Beach access is important for our people's recreation and leisure in a stressful world. This is no small thing, given the levels of violence and stress in this society. We will work with all stakeholders, including communities which have historically used beaches for recreation and fishing, and also tourism interests, to secure appropriate rights of access for the public to be able to enjoy our beaches. And if necessary, we will use legislation to protect the public's interest in having reasonable beach access while protecting the legitimate commercial interests of business owners. This is not an issue which the state can just stand back and leave as is. Time come. While we endorse the raising of the threshold for the income tax on pensions, the truth is that our pensioners are really struggling, and much more is needed to be done for them. Administrative changes to facilitate the speedy commencement of pension payments to retired employees is impatient of debate. They have to wait for extended periods before they can start getting their pension. And we have other creative proposals for expanding pension benefits to relieve the suffering of our pensioners, which I will share on another occasion. We will complete the outstanding review of the Domestic Violence Act and move quickly to implement the recommendations arising from that review. And our intention is to establish support centres in every parish to provide safe havens for survivors of domestic violence and other gender-based violence. We will enact legislation to empower the public defender to bring legal proceedings, which he can't currently do, to defend the rights of vulnerable Jamaicans, and expand the scope of the Office of the Public Defender to become a national human rights institution to monitor and report on Jamaica's performance in respecting the rights of our citizens. That institution, I had done all the preparatory work for that as Minister of Justice. 8 years later, nothing has happened. We will complete the long outstanding process of enacting legislation to enable Jamaica to accede to the jurisdiction of the International Criminal Court, which is a missing element in the current accountability framework. I had started that process as well. I don't hear nothing about it. We need to have accountability for the most dire forms of crime that leaders can commit. We will expand the legal aid system in partnership with the legal profession to include constitutional civil matters, so people can get help to access their rights in important areas of their lives, including property matters, estate matters, personal injury cases, and employment matters. We will support the MSMEs, micro, small, medium-sized enterprises, and startups, so that formalizing their businesses is attractive, welcoming, and easy. We have a model for special economic zones of incentives. What about the SME sector? Why shouldn't they get a similar ecosystem of benefits to encourage people to formalize and start businesses? We will do that. We will enact legislation to require the banks to provide a minimum suite of basic financial services to customers without charging fees. And that their cost of doing that will be treated as part of the annual cost of having the privilege of operating a bank and their licensing. And we will enforce minimum service standards to ensure that customers have ready access to ATMs to withdraw and deposit money, especially in underserved areas where banks have been closing branches. Time come to protect our people who are not being served adequately by the banking sector. And we will use the legislation governing ganja to create a special ecosystem for the Rastafari community. And we want to economically empower the Rastafari community, and that is a matter close to my heart as the architect of the PNP's 2015 decriminalization of ganja. There are provisions in the law for regulations to be made to achieve that, and they're not being used. Making change through social justice leads to a serious reconsideration of Jamaica's current place and standing in the world. Mr. Speaker, our international policy position centers on the principle of being good neighbors to all while maintaining our sovereignty and independence. That guides our relationship with the global family of nations. We steadfastly maintain the right to exercise independent judgment and make independent decisions based on the principles that we embrace. We will continue to work towards strengthening our relationships with the global South, even as we maintain long-standing relationships with our traditional partners. Our trade with the African continent and its large and rapidly expanding economies remains very modest. The top 5 economies in terms of growth are South Africa, Nigeria, Egypt, Algeria, and Ethiopia. And we have long historical connections with the fast-growing economies of Ghana and Sierra Leone. There are therefore tremendous opportunities for us to build out new trade and investment linkages with Africa. Jamaica needs to stop dithering and ratify the historic $1.5 billion agreement between CARICOM and the African Exim Bank. And we are committed regionalists, so the dire situation in our close neighbor Haiti is of great concern to us. We commit ourselves fully to engagement in the regional efforts associated with that crisis and to reasserting Jamaica's constructive leadership role within CARICOM that has been allowed to atrophy over the past 8 years. A progressive, principled foreign policy delivers real positive change for our people. The Petro-Caribe oil financing arrangement and the San Jose Accord, which financed Portmore, are striking examples of what a progressive, principled foreign policy has done for our people in the past under the People's National Party. And that is what we are committed to locally and globally. Mr. Speaker, change at the national level must focus on good governance. In this modern era of pervasive information sharing and communications, good governance is increasingly essential to maintain the people's trust and confidence in our democracy. Citizens are demanding that their leaders uphold the highest standards of accountability, transparency, and trustworthiness. All the measures that I've outlined for implementation will only be possible if we change the approach to governance that now exists. I'll leave you with the ways, means, quality, and spirit of the change in governance that we commit to. And good governance isn't just a set of ideals. It is the foundation upon which an equitable and just society can be built. The People's National Party has always been committed to fulfilling these ideals, and we will translate these principles into tangible actions that uplift and empower every member of our society. Mr. Speaker, we are in an increasingly low-trust environment. Since the JLP government came to office in 2016, no less than 8 ministers have been forced to resign or have been otherwise sanctioned for a range of serious breaches, and Jamaica continues to rank poorly on international corruption indices. The move in 2020 to take away the chairmanship of most parliamentary committees from the opposition has weakened that mechanism of holding government to account. The maneuvers to delay the tabling of reports from the Auditor General and the Integrity Commission remains a contentious matter, especially since the legal opinion on which this delay is purportedly based has been withheld from parliamentarians and the wider public. When the former Speaker was forced to resign as a result of an Integrity Commission investigation, the move to replace her with the wife of the Prime Minister, so that the head of Parliament is now the spouse of the head of government, really does not sit well with the tradition that the Speaker must act independently of the government of the day. The Speaker is intended to be independent and must act independently of the government of the day. That is the tradition. That is the tradition. The failure, Mr. Speaker.
Members.
Identify the so-called illicit 6 MPs.
Your Prime Minister fire you, both sides. Your Prime Minister fire you, both sides. Your Prime Minister fire you. Your Prime Minister fire you, both sides. Both sides.
The failure to disclose the identity of the so-called illicit 6 MPs who are under investigation by the Integrity Commission for illicit enrichment
Member. Both sides. Who can continue?
At this time.
Both sides. Both sides. Both sides. Both sides. Both sides. The Prime Minister fire you. Both sides. Both sides.
At this time, there's by number.
Both sides.
Then watch all dirty mouth Desmond Mackenzie him to know. He man need to ugly one of them call name Warmington, old Muma Lashi. Could them face? Old parasite them. Why they not come out of the place and go, man?
I will not continue in this. So I'm asking members to be quiet. Thank you. Section 7 of the Standing Orders of the House of Representatives of Jamaica says the quorum of a house and of a committee of the whole house shall consist of 16 members beside the person presiding. If at any time during a sitting of the house objection is validly taken by any member that there is not a quorum present, the person presiding shall direct members to be summoned, and if at the end of 5 minutes a quorum be not present, he shall adjourn the house without question put. If at any time during a sitting of committee of the house and the house object, and I read section 2, subsection 2 of section 7, and as it stands, I am now summoning members to come on the inside of the chamber, and we will wait for the 5 minutes.
One thing me know, there's no law in the parliament there, because there's no way Andrew Holness and him Bagaban them shouldn't be allowed to come make no presentation inside of the House of Parliament. And the next thing me sorry say Mark Golding and the PNP show up for the parasite them presentation. Jaja, how can human being behave like how them behave? Me say it think Bon and Joel still all in teeth them nearly drop out. Right now, I have to check if him teeth them drop out or something, you know, because me don't know something wrong with him teeth them. But people stay to talk down below in the comment section. As you don't know, them no come back. So we are gonna cut the video right here. So them can go on. Them soon come out of power because Jamaica they get rid of them once and for all. You understand what I say? People definitely see and understand, say, they are not good for the country and they should never be leading us. Never. You understand? So I'm going to open and learn from this. Alright? Now people, big up on yourself. Enough love, enough respect. Remember to subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed as yet. And turn on the post notification bell. Remember to leave a like on this video. Give it a thumbs up. Also share the content with a friends, a family, a loved one. Share it on the social media platform. Until then, I'm out. Big up on yourself.